You ready?
Yeah.
Alright, I'm going to take you guys back a couple years ago when a movie called 300 came out. It was around 2007, 2008, I forget. But it was depicting a battle of an ancient Greek battle called the Battle of Thermopylae, where depicted 300 people defended against a huge army and elephants and giants for some reason. And that battle, the whole movie got me really interested in Greek history because I am a huge history buff. I like to know what goes on and everything. So I looked into the battle, and through my research, I saw that the movie itself and other media portrayed the battle wrong. Discounting the giants and the elephants, and so that's what I'm going to talk to you guys about today. I'm going to talk about the key elements of the Battle of Thermopylae, the location and its advantages, what really happened, and the overall aftermath of the battle. Oh yeah. Alright. As if the people who saw the movie 300 have a pretty vague idea of what the terrain looked like. It was between a large cliff face and a body of water called the Malian Gulf. And some believe, and according to History Channel's Last Stand of the 300 Spartans, it depicted that the channel at some point was no wider than 200 kilometers wide. No, not 200 kilometers, 200 meters. And the advantage of this was that with the small numbers that the Greeks had, they had no chance of facing against the Persian army when it's like in an open field. So what they do is do a bottleneck technique where they just funnel everyone through, and they just keep poking at them until they die to death. Because they can just stand there while the enemy would come toward them. And another thing was that Persians also relied heavily on the cavalry to win battles. What they would have to do is have their infantry slam into the enemy, and then have their cavalry just swing around the side and crush them, and eventually turn them to retreat and everything like that. And unless horses can walk on sheer cliff faces and walk on water, I don't think they can feasibly do that. Okay. Now that we have the place laid out, let's talk about the Greek numbers and the Persians. Now, Persians, it's unclear. Some sources say it's 300,000. Some people say it's 2 million. It's really unclear, and I looked on different sources. But according to Jack Keeson Scott's his book, The Greek and Persian Wars, 500 to 323 BC, it was 8,000 Greek soldiers. It wasn't just the 300 Spartans, even though the 300 Spartans were the main hitting force, like the hammer, because they were training for this all their lives. They're the main force that hits them, and then the other Greeks were there to just reinforce people who died that's still in the holes. Now, another thing that became really advantageous to the Greeks and their signature formation was the phalanx. The phalanx included just shield on shield with your friend on both sides. So you have your shield right here, and your friend's shield will be overlapping yours. So where if you look on a distance, it will just be a huge wall of steel. And what they would have is just really long spears, and they would have about 3 feet in length between you and the other person. So they would so all they had to do is just stand there and just keep on poking. And what allowed them to do this? Now it is true that the Persians could have just sailed from there all the way down to here, unloaded here, and surround the Greeks at Thermopylae. But thanks to Themistocles and the Athenian general who organized the Thermopylae and Artemisian defense, he guarded this strait and blocked any Persians from coming through. And altogether, the defense held for 3 days, but sadly, a scout named Ephialtes was able to find a bypass through here and surround the people of Thermopylae. Now, and that's according to J.B. Bury's A History of Greece to the Death of Alexander the Great. Now, the battle was lost, obviously, but the war was eventually won by the Greeks as they drove the surrounded the Persian navy at Salamis and just drove them away and to where they had to retreat. Now the aftermath of this is because they became a unified country. Because before then, Greece wasn't Greece. It was just different city-states all around the peninsula, just declaring war on each other whenever they felt like it. And the people from the key factors in their political system and their leaders took note of this. And in fact, 150 years later, Philip of Macedon unifies Greece. And his son Alexander of Macedon, also is known as Alexander the Great, was able to set sail to conquest and was actually took over the Persian land, their aggressor, 150 years later. And over the conquering of lands and all that, he was able to spread his ideas, and they spread like wildfire. And their ideas are actually the core and foundation of the Roman Empire, and we all know that the Roman Empire actually has a large influence on Western civilization, and that's including ours. So, overall, the Greeks chose wisely when it came to the battlefield. They chose a path in order to funnel out the Persians, eliminate the numerical and cavalry advantage. 8,000 Greek soldiers held in line with a strong Athenian navy to protect their flank. However, it is a shame they were undone by fleeing allies, leaving a bypass unguarded. However, strategy and witness prowess of the unified nation influenced their future when Philip of Macedon unified the country, and Alexander was able to conquest. And some might say that the battle has been a key factor in the formation of the Western civilization and helped build the world you live in today. Thank you.
Yeah. Stephanie, what did you think?
Okay, I thought the story that he mentioned at the beginning brought up the topic very well. I think that he should have, although at the beginning he should have maybe brought up his main points he was going to talk to later on in his speech. I think he did a really good job at looking at the audience, although his note cards were kind of on the table, so it's a little distracting that he kept looking down. But he was really well prepared and spoke well. He rushed a little through his speech, but I think his visuals were really good. He pointed out exactly what areas he was talking to, and the maps gave us a good visual. And he explained all his slides very well as well.
All right. Yeah, I thought that the reference to the movie at the beginning was fine, and you've got a good, clear identification of the topic and your goals. The preview and the thesis kind of run together a little bit, but I think we can get a sense of where it is that you're headed from at the beginning of the speech. Early on, you cited some sources. I didn't think that you were as consistent in that toward the end of the speech as you were at the beginning of the presentation, and you want to make sure that whenever you get information from other sources that you attribute it appropriately. If it all came from that one source that you cited early on, then you need to explain that too. The theories behind the battle and how the strategies worked, I thought that was pretty clear. I like the visualization about the cavalry and how that worked, and why it was rendered basically useless in this context. The visualization with the two pictures that you had at the beginning, I think, also helped a good deal, explaining the narrow passageway that that the invading army was trying to get through. I thought that was very good. In the last part of the speech, when you're explaining why it was so important, I think you do a pretty good job of outlining that. For a short speech, you can only include so much, and I thought you got just enough information in there to show why it is one of the key elements that led to the development of Western civilization, the unification of the Greeks, and ultimately the foundation of Roman Empire and the influence later on is all a result of the Greeks' ultimate success in that war. And this was a battle that, even though they lost, it was an important part of the war. And I think that you explained that, and that gives it a lot more justification. The visuals worked pretty well. I thought that you illustrated like the strategies that the Greeks used effectively. You showed us what the problem was with the invading army being able to use their navy and naval forces. I thought that was explained nicely. And I thought there was an excellent summary at the end of the speech. I appreciated that you gave us one more chance to figure out what everything was about and put it into context and make sense of it. And I thought that that worked really nicely. All right, thank you. I have two other people who are scheduled for today that I don't have evaluation forms yet. Fernando and Star. Star's not here. Fernando, you're here? You good to go?
I completely forgot to print out the evaluation.
Okay, well I have one. I printed it out. Let me just mark the negative points on it because you're using mine. But give me your stuff and we'll get started. Oh no, because I have to write it in myself. Did I stop this?